Hi, my name is John Carruthers. I've been working in the music industry for the last 50 years. I've worked for most of the major manufacturers in design and production. I also have my own company that makes guitars. We do guitar service, repairs, and modifications. If you'd like to learn more about working on your own instrument, I have a book that's on for publishing called Guitar Care and Gear Essentials. Today I'm here to show you how to upgrade the tuners on your Fender bass. First thing we need to do is take off the strings. Many of the less expensive basses tend to have, inferior quality tuners, and this affects the tuning of your guitar and how easy it is to get it in tune. So we're going to replace these tuners that came on this bass with a set of Hipshot tuners. Hipshot are really high quality tuners that are made in the USA and that have really accurate tolerances. They don't have any backlash in the gears, which makes it easier to tune because you don't have to tune down and then tune up to get your guitar to be in tune. So now the next step is we have to take the screws out of the back of the tuners and remove the old ones off the instrument. So for ease, I have a screw gun. It basically allows me to remove the screws in an efficient manner. You want to be careful not to slip off and damage your thing. It's always good to keep your fingers around the bottom of the bit as you're taking the screws out so that the screw gun doesn't slip off and mark the back of your headstock. Okay, as you can see here, these are the bushings that are on the front. In some cases, you may have to remove them if they don't fit the new tuners. If they do fit the new tuners, then you probably just want to use the ones that are in there. There's always some chance that as you're trying to remove these that you might have some damage to the finish on the front of the headstock. So if you have to take them out, it's good to make a tool. You can basically use a piece of doweling. In this case, I just turned a little piece of aluminum on the lathe, and I can take a mallet and I can just gently tap it, and that will force the bushing to come out. In this case, it works out well for us that the bushings are the right size to fit the new tuners, so we don't have to remove them. So in this installation, what we're going to do is we're going to put on 3 of the Hipshot tuners. They're normal, and then we have one other one that's a drop D tuner, and this one is really cool because it allows you to lower the E string down to D instantaneously. You flip this little lever and the tuner rotates around and drops the pitch. You push the lever back, it puts it back in tune again. Now our next step after we've taken the old machines off is to put the new machines in place. In this case, they fit snugly with each other, so we don't have to worry about alignment because they'll be square to the headstock. On some guitars where the headstock has space between the tuners because the tuners are spaced further apart, you might have to take a little square and put it on the edge of the neck. Basically, you put it like this, and then you would draw a line so that you have a reference to get the tuner so it's at 90 degrees to the side of the headstock. So we're fortunate this time. We had 2 things that worked well for us, that the actual bushings that were in the guitar fit, and we also have the fact that they're such a close fit to each other that we can just align them by that. So now we have to transfer punch the holes. This is called a transfer punch. It basically has a sharp point on it, and it's the diameter of the hole that we're going through, and then we just take a little mallet like this, and then we can mark each hole so that we know where to drill the new ones. Okay, so once we've marked all the holes, then we need to drill the new holes for the new screws. So we'll take the tuners out of the way temporarily. Now you'll notice the difference between the 2 tuners. We're putting these new Hipshot ones on. The Hipshot ones have like a solid housing. They have much higher gear ratio so that when you turn the knob, it's more sensitive. On the Hipshot on the back, you can see the actual pillow blocks that support the gears are welded right into the plate. On here, it's just a bent plate. And so there's like slop in here, so I can turn this and not actually turn the gear at all. When I turn this, the gear starts turning immediately and there's no backlash, so that means that I can tune directly to where I want to be in the most efficient manner. Okay, so now we have to drill the holes, for the screws to hold the tuners on. So most people are wondering, what size of drill I use and what have you. So we have what's called a digital caliper. We basically can measure how wide the screw is. So we put the screw in the caliper and we can see it has an actual dimension of 97 thousandths of an inch. Okay, so now we're going to try and find a drill bit that's slightly smaller than that, maybe like 10 thousandths of an inch smaller. If you get the drill bit so it's too tight, you have a risk of breaking the screw off or splitting the headstock. So you really want to get it so that it's getting a grab but that it's not really tight. So probably about 10,000ths of an inch difference. So if we could find a drill around maybe 87 to 85 thousandths, that would be good. I've selected the appropriate drill that should just fit perfectly. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we don't drill through the front of the headstock. We can see how thick the headstock is. So what we want to do is take some tape. We can just use some vinyl tape or even masking tape will work. And we'll just take a little piece of tape. And what we'll do is we'll mark off how much depth we want. And that should really be based on the length of the screw. So if we take the screw and we put it against here, we can see how much depth we need. And then we'll just wrap that tape around the drill, and then that'll be a reference for us to know when to stop. So you can see now how it's marked off. Okay, so we can check it again with the screw. It needs to be up a little bit more, so we can just slide it up. You just want it so that it's just the length of the screw and no more, because we don't want to take a risk of drilling any further than we need to. So we basically got it marked off to where we want to drill. So now we'll put this in the drill and we'll drill the holes. Now you want to try and drill the holes as square to the headstock as possible so that they're not off angle like the original screws were. As you probably noticed, the little punch marks that we put in before start the drill so it doesn't drift off course. Okay, so now we've drilled the holes, and now we're going to put the tuners in place, and then we're going to attach them with the appropriate screws. So as you can see, we've put on the normal tuners. Now we're going to move on to putting on the drop D tuner.